Hi there and welcome back to another NJS instructional video. Today I'll be showing you how to cook a chicken gyros on a Kamado using the EspetoSul Rotisserie Kit. Now we're about 45 minutes into this cook and we still have a little bit to go. So let's go back to yesterday where it all began in the kitchen. So welcome back to yesterday, and now we're going to prepare our chicken ahead of tomorrow's cook. Now I have around 2.5 kilos of chicken thigh fillets that we'll use for our chicken gyros. Now I have gone for skin off because that was available. However, skin on would be a better choice. Now I will cut each chicken thigh in half, which will make it easier to fit on our skewer. And after that, I'll place it into this tray and then we'll start marinating. So as you can see, we already have one layer of chicken in our tray. Now before we start cutting up the other packets of chicken, we will put a dry rub over this batch, toss it and turn it, and again give it another dry rub, and then we'll bring in our next batch. Now for our dry rub, I'll be using this Atomic Chicken Charcoal Chicken Dry Rub, which I'll sprinkle generously all around our chicken. And I found this to be one of the better dry rub chickens that I've used for chicken gyros so far. Now, as I mentioned, you do want to be quite liberal and generous with the dry rub. And doing this the night before also allows that salt and flavour to work deep down into the flesh. So I'm just going to turn these over and do the same on the other side. So that's our first layer done. Now we'll cut up the two other packets and we'll also lay them on top of this layer. Again, we'll also season over the top. So here is our marinated chicken. We'll put some Glad wrap over that, put it in the fridge, and that'll be ready tomorrow for our cook. So now let's set up our Kamado for today's gyros cook. First we'll remove the cooking grates and then the deflector stones, as we won't be needing them for this cook. And with this outer ring, I'm just going to rotate that 45 degrees. So we've got a nice clear path here for our rotisserie to go on without any interruption or interference. Next, I'm also going to remove this side rack. Now it's time to prepare our charcoal. So this is left over from a previous cook. You can see there's still some smoking wood still left over. So I'm just going to take those pieces out, clean up the charcoal, and then set it up for today's cook. And these bigger pieces of charcoal, I'm just going to remove for now. Now for our cook, we actually don't need that much charcoal. So the beauty with the Kamado is its thermal efficiency. And if you want to find out more, check out my brisket video that I've done previously. Now what we will want to do is just place our charcoal more to the back side of the Kamado, as we'll be cooking on more the front side with our chicken gyros. And I'll bring back some of those bigger charcoal pieces and place them on top. Now we'll also be using some smoking timber to get a bit of smoke flavour throughout our chicken gyros. Now for this cook I'll be using cherry as our smoking wood. Now this was left over from the previous cook, which is also cherry, and I'm just going to place some just here at the front, and the same with our fresh piece. Now the idea of placing that smoking timber in front is so they can dry out and get hot. So when we do place them on the fire, probably about 5 to 15 minutes before our cook, they'll be all primed and ready to give off some really good smoke. So let me walk you through how I'm going to set up the EspetoSul Rotisserie on the Kamado Joe. Now one of the beauties with this EspetoSul Rotisserie is that you can attach it to any barbecue. Now for the Kamado, I did purchase the EspetoSul 18-inch ceramic Kamado bracket, which is what I have right here. And I have modified that slightly, so I have cut off some of these edges. And the reason I've done that is so it can fit between the bracketry, which holds the side shelf. And the other thing I've done is I've also lined all the inside faces with a heat felt gasket. So the similar material that's on the actual Kamado. And the reason I've done that is because I didn't want this metal bracket, which will get hot, to be in direct contact with the felt. So in order to preserve the felt life of the Kamado, I've just lined it with some felt, which is fairly inexpensive to purchase. And we'll simply place our bracket like that on the side. So that's quite nice and snug, and it's not going to go anywhere. And this will support the main body of our EspetoSul Rotisserie. The other thing that I've done is I've made this wooden support and just drilled a hole there in the center. And again, I've also placed some heat gasket felt on the underside. And the idea is we can place our skewer rod right in the middle. Now you can place it directly onto the felt. I didn't personally like that, again for the heat contact purposes, but I also found that it did walk away sometimes. So by using this simple wooden holder, that allows the skewer to stay in place. Now another really nice thing with the genuine EspetoSul bracket is you can have 2, if not 3 skewers going at once if you wanted to. So you're not limited by the single skewer as you would with the genuine JoeTisserie attachment, for example, on the Kamado. Another advantage by doing it this way with the felt lined surfaces, unlike the JoeTisserie, which is an aluminium or metal contact onto the felt or onto the heat gasket, that will eventually degrade and you'll have to replace your felt a lot quicker or your gasket a lot quicker. Whereas a setup like this, you won't be damaging the felt. So now just a quick walkthrough of our actual rotisserie. So it's very basic and very effective. So we've got our skewered rod, which has a keyway cut into it, and that just slides opposite that screwing point there. It's very well made. There is a switch on the back. So turning it on will start rotating the skewer itself. It is very quiet as well to operate. Now in terms of the attachments that come with the actual skewer, so it comes with this really nice 2-prong fork, as you can see here, and that's all adjustable. So we'll adjust that to size before we start skewering the chicken. Now I was a little bit skeptical because you can see that the rod itself is circular and we're screwing onto a circular face here, and I wasn't too sure how effective that would be and if it would start slipping, but in the times that I've used it I've never had it slip, so it is actually very effective. Now before we start skewering the chicken, I'm just going to set up the rotisserie so that the fork is approximately in the middle like that. So you do want it to be pretty much centered with the Kamado there, so that'll work out really well. Now I did also buy the additional claws, which I will put one on this side facing that way, and that'll just help prevent any chicken from coming off. If you're within the actual prong, it'll be fine. If you do go over a little bit, that's when it will start slipping off and where that additional fork will come in handy. Now you may be wondering, if we can't close the lid like we can on, say, a JoeTisserie, how are we going to get that full Kamado effect on this rotisserie system? Now if I were to close the lid right now, it would contact the skewer and it would also prevent the skewer from rotating or put a lot of friction and force onto it. So as a result, what I've done is I've created this wooden cross which sits at the front and our lid handle rests on the top of it. Like that. And as you can see, there is a slight opening in our top dome, but that actually works in our favour. What we end up doing is closing the bottom vent all the way, so there's no airflow coming from the bottom. The only airflow will be coming in through here and also discharging either through here or through the top of our chimney. Now I've also lined the handle with foil. I have found that the handle does get hot without foil because there is a lot of heat that comes this way. But we also do get that Kamado effect of having that top dome and that oven. So I've just emptied the ashtray. I'll just place that back into our Kamado. Now we'll leave that bottom vent open for now as we start up the charcoal. So now that we've got our Kamado set up for our cook, it's time to skewer the chicken and light up our Kamado. Now to start up our charcoal today, I'll be using this Looft Lighter, and this Looft Lighter discharges a super concentrated hot air onto our charcoal. And usually this will take about a minute to start up the charcoal, and then within a few minutes we'll start getting a really nice burn on that charcoal. Now this is also a chemical-free means of starting up the charcoal, and if you want to understand more about why chemical-free is important when using a ceramic grill like a charcoal, please check out my brisket video, also in the video link above. Now while our Kamado is getting up to temperature, we can start skewering the chicken. And you just simply want to grab your chicken thigh and just pierce it in center of the meat like that, and also the ends on the fork, prongs like that, and we'll push it all the way to the back. And we'll just do that for all the chicken that we have. Now you'll notice that I didn't trim any of the fat off the chicken thigh. Now we do want some fat on there, and as that fat renders down during the cook, it'll give us a really nice juiciness to the chicken. Now there will be some pieces that I don't actually skewer on those forks, just to kind of even out the load on the skewer. Now EspetoSul claim that the skewer itself can hold up to 5 kilos, which probably can do actually a little bit more. Now we've got roughly 2.5, 2.6 kilos of chicken, which is well underneath that limit. Now one of the really good things with these prongs is it obviously holds the chicken in position all throughout the skewer, as opposed to just having the end claws. Now when it does come to carving, you can still carve generously around that, but what you will find is when you're cooking on a Kamado and having a rotisserie like this, the chicken will actually cook right through, as opposed to a traditional gyros setup. Now you do want to press in the chicken as much as you can. And as you can see, the chicken is within the prongs, but I will put this additional claw on the end just to be safe, like that, and just tighten that up. Like that. So now our chicken is all ready to put on the Kamado. So now our Kamado is at temperature. Now when I mean at temperature, we've got good heat soak throughout the ceramic. Don't worry too much about what the needle's saying. It will vary from 200 to 250 degrees Celsius. Now because our dome lid will be open, we'll shut the bottom vent altogether. We don't want a huge fire happening in the Kamado, but we do want a nice even glow throughout our charcoal. Now we can place our smoking wood on the charcoal, like that. And that's starting to give off a really nice fruity flavour. We will let that smoking wood ignite fully, so we get some nice blue smoke as opposed to this white smoke. And while we wait for that, we can start setting up our rotisserie. Now I'm just going to attach the EspetoSul motor body to the skewer, so look for that flat tip on the skewer and just slide it over and tighten it up where that flat portion is there. And we'll turn it on. Now this will take roughly an hour to cook, but we will probe for temperature at around that 1 hour mark. So now we'll just close that dome lid using our support and let it cook. And with the top vent, we're just going to close the daisy wheel all the way and just leave the holes fully open at the top there. And there is ample clearance where that timber is. Now, one of the other really nice things about the EspetoSul Rotisserie is its portability. Now, this is powered by 4 AA batteries, and that's meant to give around 50 hours of use on just those 4 batteries. Now, this is my 4th cook with the EspetoSul Rotisserie, and still we're going strong on the first set of batteries. Now, we're about half an hour into our cook, and I will shuffle some of those coals a little bit further forward to start browning up some of this chicken. Check out that smoke ring. That's the cherry smoke wood that we've been using for this cook. Now, there are a number of advantages in using the EspetoSul Rotisserie Kit as opposed to using something like the JoeTisserie on the Kamado. One of the advantages is we can have multiple skewers, not just a single skewer, as opposed to the JoeTisserie, which only has the one skewer. Another advantage is I can use this rotisserie kit whilst camping, on a Weber kettle, on different style barbecues, where I can't do that with the JoeTisserie. Another advantage is the way that it's been set up with the genuine bracket and the felt that I've put underneath, and the wood block that I've also fabricated up with the felt tip, as opposed to the JoeTisserie. Now, with the JoeTisserie, that does actually burn up and damage the felt or the gasket. Now, because of the way this has been set up, we don't actually have the same heat effect onto our felt. Another advantage is this is fully portable, and it does run off just 4 AA batteries as opposed to mains power like the JoeTisserie. Now, one of the biggest pros with the EspetoSul Rotisserie Kit is the price. So it's fairly affordable, and for what I purchased, which was the attachment for our Kamado as well as the rotisserie set itself, you can see that it came to just under $200 shipped. Now, that's compared to a JoeTisserie, which is around 500 Australian dollars plus shipping on top of that. So this makes it very affordable and also very accessible for rotisserie on a ceramic barbecue like our Kamado Joe here. Now, our temperature is around the 210 degrees Celsius, around the 400 degrees Fahrenheit mark. So we're about 1 hour into our cook now. It's time to check our chicken gyros and also check the internal temperature of the chicken. So we're probing around the 50 to 60 degrees Celsius mark, so we still have a little bit to go. Ideally, we want to have around 75 degrees Celsius internal. So we'll give this another 10 to 15 minutes. Now, what you don't want to do is baste the chicken whilst it's on the rotisserie, especially in the Kamado, because this is what can happen. So as you just saw, we had a massive flare up, and that was the first time I ever cooked a chicken gyros on the rotisserie on a Kamado, and we had a lot of flame, and that burnt the surface of the chicken. So we've been cooking now for 1 hour and 20 minutes, so let's check our chicken gyros and see if it's ready. So we're probing in the mid 80s, just around 80 degrees Celsius in some areas, a bit higher in others. This is looking and smelling fantastic. So we'll let this sit for a few minutes and we'll do a first cut and see what it tastes like. That looks really good, so let's see how it tastes. That is really good. Now before we start cutting up and serving this amazing chicken gyros, let's fast forward to tomorrow where we do a post-cook review. So welcome to tomorrow. Now it's time to do our post-cook review. So first let's check out the Kamado. And as you can see, we have a little bit of charcoal left over, and this will be really handy in our next cook, but we will also need to top up charcoal for whatever we're cooking next. The other thing that you can see is our felt is all intact, so we haven't damaged any of the Kamado's felt gaskets, either on the bottom or on the top dome, and everything else has stacked up fairly well, as expected. And we'll quickly check the ash straw and see what's left over. Now in terms of the actual cook, it took us around 1 hour and 20 minutes to cook this chicken gyros right through. Now we could have done a first cut much earlier and left the chicken gyros on, and that would have helped brown up a second layer of chicken gyros. So that also would have been quite nice, but one of the advantages of having a rotisserie on a Kamado is that it cooks right through, as opposed to a traditional gyros, which doesn't actually cook right through, and you need to have a second or a third cut in order to cook the chicken right through. Additionally, all our cherry smoking wood was consumed throughout the cook, and that did give us a nice sweet smoke flavour to the chicken itself. So that's all for the post-cook review. So let's go back to yesterday and join in where we left off. So welcome back to today. I really hope you found this video informative. Don't forget to like it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit that bell notification icon. Thanks for watching.